This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Pio Ontiveros. Tonight on the program, a blast from the past for some who filed their certificates of candidacy, familiar surnames that oppose the Marcos regime and those in power at the time. Boracay is back with a new set of rules. Here's what tourists have to know. And love is love, even in the animal kingdom. A couple of male penguins hatching a little surprise. More familiar faces joining the 2019 senatorial race ahead of the deadline to file certificates of candidacy. At the Commission on Elections, we saw political rivals, former detainees, and a few others who want to make a Senate comeback. Our Joyce Ilas is at the COMELEC main office in Intramuros, Manila. Joyce, tell us who filed their COCs today.
Pia, it was a busy day here in COMELEC. 41 people filed their certificates of candidacy for senator, bringing the total now to 104 senatorial aspirants. Now, among the high-profile personalities who filed their COCs today, key figures during the martial law era, or rather descendants of key figures during the martial law era. History does make some strange twists and turns. Who should turn up at the same time at the COMELEC headquarters to file their certificates of candidacies? But the daughter of the late strongman Ferdinand Marcos and the son and namesake of a late senator and fierce Marcos critic Jose Pepe Diokno. Ilocos Norte Governor Aimee Marcos and human rights lawyer Shell Diokno sat a few feet apart as COMELEC staff received their documents. But that moment might as well be frozen in time.
I think that the new generation, particularly the millennial generation so-called, are ready to hear our side of the story.
Parang naulit lang ang kasaysayan dahil nung panahon ng tatay ko, siyempre ang katapat niya, ang tatay niya. Ganun lang yun. Sa akin, let's bring it on and let's see what will happen.
Marcos is doing very well in the surveys, but the human rights lawyer and law school dean will have to fight very hard to take his place in the Senate, where his late father used to loom large. But for today at least, it seemed the ghosts of a martial law past had descended upon the COMELEC, with the arrival of a candidate bearing the name Aquino. Bam Aquino, first cousin of former President Noynoy Aquino and a dead ringer for the late opposition leader Ninoy Aquino, hopes to make a comeback at the Senate, but he is floundering at the surveys.
Kailangan ho natin ng mga tao na tututol sa mga probisyon, sa mga batas na alam ho nating makakasama sa taong bayan.
Likewise, Erin Tañada joins Diokno and Aquino in the Liberal Party as he aspires to win a Senate seat. He admits their fight in the opposition is going to be challenging, but he'll stand by the Tañada brand of politics.
Principled politics po at nakikinig sa taong bayan. Hindi takot lumaban, no, maski sabihin po natin nag-iisa para ipaglaban ang isang posisyon.
And as if there wasn't enough to remind us of the distant past, who should choose to run again for senator at the very ripe old age of 94? None other than Juan Ponce Enrile, martial law administrator, 1986 EDSA hero, alleged coup plotter, and Senate president. Except that he spent a year in detention after that for pork barrel cases. But the 94-year-old politician was a no-show, his lawyer filing his COC for him without any fanfare. Also making his comeback to politics and someone who spent time in detention with Enrile is former Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Raring to get back to the Senate, Jinggoy fares much better in the surveys than his incumbent senator brother, JV.
Remember the first time when I ran for senator in 2004, I also had a pending plunder case. It did not affect me since obviously I won.
Of course, there is one other theme of the candidates who filed today, and it is that they belong to political families that never seem to run out of contributions to the country's political life. There was a Cayetano, once a senator, now a congresswoman, but aiming to get back into the Senate. A women's rights advocate, but criticized for her silence over President Duterte's actions towards women.
He can defend himself. I am not his spokesperson. Look at my track record. I will continue to fight for women, for children, for healthcare, and for education.
And then Mar Rojas, the former administration presidential candidate who was defeated in 2016, now hopes to return to the Senate to fight alongside the opposition.
Hindi makakayanan ng kalooban ko na parang, ganyan na lang ba? No? Parang hindi pa tapos yung trabaho sa nation building. Diba? May tutulong ka ba?
All right, that was Joyce Ila's reporting from the Commission Elections headquarters in Manila. We now go above and beyond the headlines with former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, who today, through his lawyer, filed his certificate of candidacy for the Senate. Sir, good evening.
Hello, Pia. How are you? Good evening.
I'm fine, sir. And I suppose you're doing very well at 94 years old. Nagpasya po kayo na maghain po ng Certificate of Candidacy para sa Senado. Gusto niyo po talagang bumalik?
Kaya ako nag-file ng Certificate of Candidacy para sa Senado dahil kung ako makabalik, palagay ko makakatulong ako sa maraming problema ngayon sa ating bansa. No? Unang-una, yung binabalak na papalitan ang ating saligang batas, yung federalismo, pinag-aralan ko yon, sinuri ko yung draft na ipinisinta nila kay President Duterte at nakita ko na maraming gaps, maraming mga inconsistencies at kaya doon isipan ko na nag-file ng Certificate of Candidacy para makisali sa usapan tungkol sa federalismo.
Yeah. Well,
pangalawa,
sige po.
sa loob ng 3 taon na nawala ako sa Senado, nag-aaral ako, marami akong pinag-aralan ng mga issues sa bansa natin, sa mundo natin, sa buong mundo, at lalo na sa mga scarcities of resources na darating sa ating mundo. Kaya naisipan ko na sumali ulit kung ako ay minamarapat ng ating mga kababayan na bumalik sa Senado.
Yes. Senator Enrile, we don't naman have that much time, but I wanted to ask you, pag sinasabi po ninyo that you still have a contribution to make in terms of this proposal for a shift to a federal form of government, can you give me at least one example of what you're saying na merong mga gaps o may kulang doon sa draft charter? What exactly, sir? Give one example.
For instance, the money requirement for this proposal. How much will the taxpayer shell out from his pocket in order to make this a reality? You know, for instance, in the case of the Supreme Court, they're going to increase the members of the Supreme Court from 15 justices to 42 justices. How much will that cost? Now, in the case of the House of Representatives, they're going to increase the membership of that house from 300 to 400.
Yeah.
How much will that entail?
In other words, sir, para bang mas mahal po yung shift to federalism? Ganun po ba?
Definitely. It could be possibly wreck the economy if we're not going to watch out.
So therefore, you are not for it?
Apart from that, there are many issues.
Many issues. Okay. Sir, ibang episode na lang po yun. But anyway, sir, are you also aware that yung inyong certificate of candidacy had a mistake in it? Nakalagay po doon sa profession businesswoman. Kinorek naman po ng inyong abogado.
We are going to correct that because my lawyers were the ones who prepared that certificate of. That is an error, and I'm going to refile tomorrow.
Magre-refile po kayo kasi ang ginawa ni Attorney Sagondoy, binura yung WO sa businesswoman tapos pinirmahan niya. So, that's not good enough for you, no?
I'm going to refile it.
Okay. Kayo na mismo ang pupunta?
Yeah, because I'm going to attach the nomination of the pwersa ng Masang Filipino Party
Okay.
to my certificate. So, it's better that nakita yung mga errors na yun.
Oo.
You know, I do not review it anymore. I left it to
Akala
the
nyo,
lawyers.
okay. Oo. So, and very briefly, sir, hindi po kayo yung nagpunta ngayon because you had another engagement, ganun po ba?
No. I felt that there was no need for me to be personally present in the filing of my certificate.
All right,
of
so that's clear.
candidacy.
You will go to the COMELEC tomorrow. You'll file a new certificate of candidacy.
I will ask my lawyers to file it for me.
Hindi po kayo ang pupunta bukas.
No.
Okay. Sir,
By the way,
yes.
my not going there does not mean that I'm not physically fit.
Yeah. Yes. Well, yun na nga po yung susunod na no. Siyempre, ang lahat po nang nagsasabi 94 years old na po kayo, gusto niyo pang magserbisyo sa Senado. At kung mananalo po kayo, tulad ng sinabi niyo, no, kung pagpalain po kayo, by the time your 6-year term ends, you will be 100 years old, sir.
That issue will be addressed to the electorate if they want me to be there. All I can say is, physically I'm fit to serve.
Okay.
Mentally I'm more than fit to serve than when I was in the Senate.
Okay. Sir, recently you made waves, no, of a different kind. Dahil doon sa inyong one-on-one interview with former Senator Bongbong Marcos. You were severely criticized for that because some people were saying you were trying to revise history when you talked about martial law, about former President Ferdinand Marcos. Have you addressed that issue?
You know, Pia, this issue has been discussed since the revolution. Since before that, I have been elected several times in spite of those issues. And I'm just wondering why people want me not to participate at this time, just simply because I was interviewed by Bongbong Marcos. What are they afraid of?
Yeah. But in that interview, you also said, and I will paraphrase you, you were saying na parang meron pang mga lalabas na katotohanan, the truth will still come out about martial law. What else is going to come out about martial law?
You know, Pia, all I can tell the people who are saying this, raise all the issues. I am ready to answer them publicly. If you want to debate with me publicly about these things, I'm willing to engage you.
That would make for an interesting. Yeah, that would make for an interesting episode.
I'm ready to face anybody on a debate on any issue regarding our country, its economy, its politics, its social condition, or on any issue involving the planet.
Okay. Sir, one more issue about you, yung inyong kaso po. What is the status right now?
I am innocent until I'm proven guilty, and I don't think they can prove that I'm guilty.
They cannot prove that you're guilty of these this pork barrel fund mess.
We haven't started hearing the case.
Okay. And sir, my one last question. Doon po sa latest, I think it was the Social Weather Station survey, first week of September. Wala po ata yung pangalan nyo, but have you checked, have you asked survey firms to check, or have you consulted people in the 1 to 12 range? Where would you be?
I'm presenting myself to the people for a judgment. It's up to them. If they want me to go back, whatever decision they will make, I will respect it.
Final word, sir?
I said, whatever decision the people will make about me as a candidate, I will respect it.
All right. Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, sir, thank you very much for joining us. Netizens sharing their thoughts on Juan Ponce Enrile and other senatorial aspirants. The netizen talks about the former senator saying, quote, only 6 more years and you will qualify to receive the centenarian gift for senior citizens from the DSWD. Pahinga ka na lang, Manong Johnny, di ka na namin kailangan sa Senado, unquote. Meantime, this Twitter user has a reminder for voters. He writes, Juan Ponce Enrile, Jinggoy Estrada, Bong Revilla. Yung mga nakulong dahil sa pork barrel scam, andyan ulit at liligawan kayo para makabalik ng Senado. Kailan ka matututo, Juan? Paulit-ulit kanilang pinagsasamantalahan, unquote. Now, moving on to another story, we head to Boracay, where authorities prepare for the island's reopening on October 26th. Following 6 months of rehabilitation, officials say visitors can expect radical changes in the famous tourist destination. Our senior correspondent David Santos joins us live from there. David, tell us about these very radical changes.
Well, PIA officials guarantee it will be a whole new experience, and these changes are expected to draw mixed reactions from the public. Still, the government is bent on carrying them out because it doesn't want efforts to rehabilitate Boracay for 6 months go to waste.
It will all begin here, the Katiklan Jetty Port, dubbed as the gateway to Boracay. No advanced hotel booking, no entry to the island. Visitors will have to go through a verification process. Make sure your reservations are in the 68 hotels and resorts so far allowed to resume operations. These are establishments that have fully complied with environmental laws, such as sufficient water and solid waste disposal systems. Aside from having to reduce their flights, there's a proposal that airline companies also help filter Boracay-bound tourists by checking if they are booked in compliant hotels.
Let's say through a tour operator, mag-check-in. Nandun na parang visa, i-check nila, are you booked in any of these hotels? Kung hindi, they cannot fly out anymore.
All the other hotels, even the bigger ones, will remain closed.
Gawin po nating pantay-pantay ito, sumunod po tayo sa batas. Kung sakaling hindi po tayo susunod, mas maganda siguro, wag na rin po tayo magbukas.
Officials warn non-compliant hotels which will accept guests will be padlocked.
They can ask for refund. Kung hindi naman, they can file charges. We can assist.
Once on the island, expect a drastic change in its landscape. For one, there will be less water sports activities which Boracay is known for.
Ibibigyan po ng partikular na lugar yung mga water sports natin na safe naman po para sa mga nagsuswimming lang.
No more beach beds, chairs, and umbrellas. Not those sandcastles for your Instagram photos.
It turned into a brown beach already. Nung bago po natin tinake over ang paglilinis dito sa Boracay. Now it's white beach again.
Fire dancers will have to use LED lights instead of real fire.
Well, live bands, you can do it inside the hotels, you can do it in bars or in clubs, but not in the beachfront.
The government is reconsidering its decision to ban wild beach parties. Instead of the white beach, it is eyeing moving beach parties in Bulabog, which was originally tagged as Boracay cesspool. Business owners are looking forward to October 26th, still remaining optimistic on tourist arrivals.
I think it's very refreshing that we could start from scratch in terms of trying to prove to the government that we can be disciplined and handle all the waste. Kasi yun naman po yung naging punot dulo, right?
Everything is the same. It's just umatras ka lang. So there's still tables and chairs. It's just inside. There's still wedding. It's just inside.
This is what the businessman we spoke to was saying. Basically, structures have all been pushed back about 30 meters from the shoreline, giving some sort of breathing space for the beachfront. They say everything is back to normal here in Boracay, well, except for some changes that others may consider drastic. But the rule of thumb here, always sustain the accomplishments of Boracay's 6-month rehabilitation. The Environment Department is deputizing workers of business establishments to be called environment marshals to conduct citizens' arrests against those who litter in the beach. Offenders will have to face penalties. This is the DNR's response to pictures on social media showing trash in the same area where Monday's dry run program was held. Obviously, it embarrassed the government, prompting one official to question the person who posted the photos on Facebook. Undersecretary Benny Antiporda said the Facebook user should have instead called out those who left the trash or should have picked up the trash himself. Pia.
David Santos there reporting to us live from Boracay. CNN Philippines sat down with government officials in charge of Boracay's rehabilitation. Catch the replays of our special presentation, Rebuilding Boracay, tomorrow afternoon at 1, Friday at 8 in the evening, Saturday at 9:30 p.m. and Sunday 10:30 a.m. Economic managers expect the prices of goods to remain elevated, and the country bags its first medal in the Youth Olympic Games thanks to a Boracay native. Stay tuned to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. This is Newsnight on CNN. Philippines economic managers revised downwards their growth outlook for the year while still seeing high prices until 2019. Now, during today's Development Budget Coordination Committee meeting, economic managers lowered their growth outlook for 2018 from 7 to 8% to 6.5% to 6.9%. They explain the change reflects global risks, including the U.S.-China trade war and rising oil prices. But they say growth will pick up in the next years. Meanwhile, consumer prices expected to remain high this year to settle at between 4.8% and 5.2%. Inflation seen slightly tapering off in 2019 because of policies to lower prices. In sports, the Philippines sails to its first medal in the Youth Olympic Games. Kiteboarding star Christian Tio bags the country a silver. The Boracay native shared second-place honors with Slovenia, while Dominican Republic went on to bag the gold. Tio has represented the country in other international competitions. And NBA fans, the wait is finally over. The 2018-2019 season tips off in less than 24 hours. Action begins 8 a.m. between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics. Meantime, defending champions begin their title defense. The Golden State Warriors face the Oklahoma City Thunder at 10:30 a.m. The Warriors looking to win their third straight NBA championship. Now, here today's global headlines. Saudi Arabia reportedly preparing to admit that one of its journalists died. Two sources tell CNN the Middle Eastern country will admit that Jamal Khashoggi's death was the result of an interrogation gone wrong. One source saying the report will likely conclude that the operation was carried out without clearance and that those involved will be held responsible. The journalist was last seen entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey on October 2nd. Local investigators have searched the building for evidence in his or following his disappearance, but they have yet to reveal what they discovered. Saudi authorities had maintained Khashoggi left the consulate the same afternoon of his visit. They provided no evidence to support the claim. Britain's Prince Harry and Meghan Markle already receiving baby gifts less than 24 hours after they announced they are expecting their first child next spring. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex began the first day of their first Australian tour with an official welcome ceremony at the Admiralty House in Sydney. There, they were presented with some classic Aussie gifts, a pair of baby boots, and a kangaroo doll. The royal couple announced Meghan's pregnancy yesterday, just hours after she and Harry landed in Sydney. And love is also winning at an aquarium in Sydney. A same-sex penguin couple are now foster parents. The two birds are named Sven and Magic, or Svangic for short. They're often seen going for swims together in the penguin expedition. And when breeding season began, they even started nesting, thinking they would soon have a baby. They did so well at making a home that the aquarium gave them a fake egg to practice caring for. Soon after, they were given a real egg from a penguin couple that had two. The Sea Life Sydney Aquarium says the penguins have a unique way of showing their love for one another. Sven gave Magic a special stone, which they say is just like a proposal. More stories ahead. Pop diva Mariah Carey releasing a new album, her first in 4 years, and another movie starring Carlo Aquino in the works. This time, he teams up with Nadine Lustre. Details next here in Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Full and part-time employees in the U.S. work an average of 40 hours a week. That's according to 2017 data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But working more than that has been linked to negative changes in your health, while working fewer